Good evening, everyone. My name is Brad Smith, and I want to welcome you all to this evening's presentation by Joan Brooks Baker. We're really looking forward to having her speak to us. If you were here last week, you know we had someone very local. This week we have someone who's come in from Santa Fe to speak with us, so thank you very much. No lightning and thunder tonight, I'm sorry. So, just a few words and some thank yous before we get started. I'll keep it short, but I do want to thank a few people. Margie Clark-Cavan, who sponsored the beautiful flowers here this evening. And Claire Bean is across the way getting the reception set up for us. So immediately after the presentation this evening, we invite you all to follow the lanterns that will be lit. Go across to the church and we'll have some cool water and light refreshments for you. And you can meet and speak with our presenter this evening and share some stories with your friends. We hope you'll join us. Also want to thank both our corporate sponsors who have been very generous in helping us out throughout the years, as well as the many individual contributors. If you haven't had a chance to do so, we invite you to make a donation to our begging bowls, or you can take these cards that are on your chairs with you, fill them out, get your contact information for our mailing list. You can go to our website and learn about some of our other speakers, learn about the Amos Fortune Forum, and if you care to do so, you can also make a donation there. We are live streaming these events, so if any of your friends and family, maybe people in Santa Fe who are not able to be here this evening, you can either see it in real time or a recording of it will be posted on YouTube, and you can watch it at any point. So, with that, I would like to introduce our moderator for the evening, Sue Cholet.
Thank you, Brad. Good evening, everyone. It's so great to see all of you here tonight on such a warm night. This is fabulous. So I am introducing my friend Joan Brooks Baker, who I have known, I think we figured about 60 years. She's an old friend. We're kindred spirits. And it started in 1959 when both of our mothers and fathers sent us to boarding school, a very fine boarding school, Miss Hall's School in Pittsfield, Massachusetts. And they made the huge mistake of assigning us as roommates because what they didn't know about us when we entered school was, although we were there to study and work hard, and the course of study was very, very demanding, no doubt about it, but there was something about the two of us who we just couldn't toe the line. So we would sort of go off and veer off and do this and that, which was not okay with the administration. And we would be called in front of the headmistress, and she would say, "Now, girls, what have you done this time?" And somehow she always gave us a pass. So the biggest memory of Joan, besides our antics, was the time that she spent in the dark room. She was really avid about taking photographs, but then not just developing them, but taking photographs and the negatives and playing with them and coming up with all sorts of really interesting images. And she got me interested in the darkroom at that time, too. There's more that I want to tell you about Joan, and it's really about who she is as a person. And I'm going to read my notes because I don't want to forget anything. Joan is first and foremost intensely curious about people and their individual lives. And this was from the beginning. She just has an intense curiosity. She also has, probably second is importance, is that she has a very great need to connect with people and talk to them and listen to them and hear them out and find out about their lives. And she uses her photography to connect with folks in that way. And I think you'll see that tonight as she shows you her photographs and talks about the people around the world that she has met. She has the courage to engage in different places, in different cultures, which sometimes scares many of us, but she can go anywhere and find people to almost explore, to find out about. And I think that's fantastic. You will see as she goes through her program that she has been brave enough to lead her life in her own terms, which is one of the reasons why I really admire her. One thing I want to just add, she has written many things. One is a book called The Magnolia Code, and you can get it on by going online. And I got to tell you, if you're interested in learning more about her and her life and how she became the person she is, that's a great book to read. So with that, I give you Joan Brooks Baker. I love it.
Thank you, Sue, a long ago roommate and a forever friend. And I just want to say thank you to everyone who made this happen. And I have to add that this, from the stage up here, this is the most beautiful room. It's sort of a square, and which is one of my favorite. And I'm just so happy to be here. And I also want to say it's very hot. So it is truly an honor to be a speaker here tonight at the Amos Fortune Forum. I have certainly read about the past speakers. I've read about Amos Fortune and how this all happened. It's very impressive. And I feel this is truly a forum of diverse and real creative ideas that are felt here. I am inspired to be living in this difficult but opportunity-making time. It has been an exhilarating past 79 years for me because I have lived in a sea of change, especially for women. My talk, therefore, is a culmination of my ideas and thoughts and images from over the years, decades, really, and of my subject, the essence of woman, or to put it in more colorful terms, what makes women tick. And therefore, I have learned what makes me tick. I have been a photographer for most of my life and became a writer about 12 years ago, culminating in my memoir, a book called The Magnolia Code. And that was published in summer of 2020. The Magnolia Code is a story of my upbringing in New York City by dyed-in-the-wool Southern parents. And they came to the city at the end of the Depression, determined to make it. They brought with them, however, an unwritten code of rules, Southern rules, and hoping that their 3 children would follow them. However, I was the youngest, and I didn't like their rules. I just wanted to be myself, to follow my own path, really whatever that meant at the time. I am grateful as a photographer. I've had the opportunity to travel, to see and feel a lot of the world, especially the world of the female. It has been an inspiring journey, and I want to relate to you the impact that it has had on me, the influence of women, of guides, mentors, influencers, the influence that they have, the impact, I should say, they have had on me. I want to say also that I will be reading every once in a while from my book. Let's see, we're going to begin. The image of a monotype on the screen, and I should say, and perhaps many of you know what a monotype is, but it's really, I took many photographs and printed them on transparent paper and collaged them, so it's photographic collage. So this is of New York City and Santa Fe. May I tell you a little bit about myself looking at this. As I say, I've lived in New York City on and off before I moved to Santa Fe about 40 years ago. And this image on the screen is, it's a collage. It's New York City, but it's amidst the trees of Santa Fe. I have to say that I love the world, but I particularly love New York City and Santa Fe. And maybe Jaffrey is coming up there. So I'm going to show you my family, my 2 older sisters, and Alice, who is on my right, is a year and a half older than I am, and she's my forever pal. This is my nanny, who I grew up with. She didn't leave until I was 14. This is Aunt Billy, my mother's very spirited stepsister, who meant a lot to me. Here I am as Cactus Pete. Now that Cactus Pete was my alter ego, and my father gave me the name of Cactus Pete because he recognized an independent and I guess a little bit of a feisty cowboy yearning to come out. And you can see with the leggings that I'm wearing that I was striving towards the cowboy, and I called them my Cactus Pete chaps. So little girls go everywhere. And so it was with me. I was born with a very big curiosity, a lot of wonder. I was an observer and a questioner. In 3rd grade, we were given shoe boxes and taught how to make a camera. I took my shoebox everywhere, down the streets of New York, even on the subway, and my shoebox eventually turned into a Brownie, a simple Kodak, and finally a Leica. I was told that, because I took photographs everywhere and wasn't very fearful of that, but that as a young girl, that photographing so many people, that I was trying to make sense of my life. Why? Who are they? Where do I fit in? These were my questions, and actually still are. So to start, I want to ask the following questions of myself and really of all of you. Who are we? Are we the Venus of Willendorf, the icon of 25,000 years ago, which was discovered in Austria in 1908? She is said to be the first goddess and mother to us all. Here we see her in her primitive splendor, telling us her reason for being. With exaggerated features, the Venus represents fertility and motherhood. Are we the Virgin Mary, the spiritual mother, venerated and beloved, honored as the mother who is able to understand the human heart, full of love whose tenderness is matched by her courage to defend her beloved son? Or are we Eve, living in the idyllic Garden of Eden, where there is no conflict until Eve wants wisdom and to know good and evil? Thus she eats from the tree of knowledge, and with this act, Eve puts the world into a questioning chaos. Are we witches? Opposite to the Virgin Mary, it is said that the witch creates illusions and is a caster of evil spells, that her power was given to her by Satan. Women's natural healing qualities were interpreted as demonic magic, often associated with riding a broom, certainly a symbol of women's domesticity. The mystery and sensual energy of the witch was to be feared. Are we Mother Earth? Are women empowered by their connection to the earth? And by the way, as we know, I must throw in, Mother Earth is very angry at this time. That is an understatement. This image is by Ana Mendieta, and I think it's just a wonderful depiction of her idea, and she unfortunately died, but depiction of her idea of Mother Earth. So do we possess some of these aspects, some of these qualities and parts? Yes, I believe we do. We are the sum of all of our parts. Bill Cunningham, a quite famous New York City fashion photographer, street photographer, was asked what he was looking for. Nothing. I know it when I see it. I agree. With intuition and often identifying with the subject, I enter into the life that I was focusing on or am focusing on. I have made and still make up stories about each subject. I have questions. And I might add that I have been told to stop asking so many questions. But women have many faces. I want to start with how women can be perceived as innate mothers, as nurturers, a life force. Although I want to add that some say that motherhood is not innate, that we are taught that this is our role. Just interesting thought. Here we are in India, a young girl with a baby and maybe her brother, I really don't know, but I loved her look. We are now in Kosovo. Again, I photographed a lot the gypsies, or the Roma as they're correctly called, and really like them and their independent struggling in life. Here's my sister with her great niece. We are now in Kosovo again. This is the Kosovo family. I photographed in Kosovo at the end of the war there, under the auspices of the United Nations. And now I'm reading from the Magnolia Code for a moment. On a rainy day, I sat with the family in the remains of their house in a bombed-out village near Pristina, the capital of Kosovo. The children huddled close to the mother for warmth, perhaps for protection, and paid little attention to my camera, except for one staring 12-year-old boy with beautiful dark eyes. Outside, on a 40-foot fence, clothes and objects were hung for anyone looking for their loved ones' belongings. We are housekeepers. This is the spirit of Ramoncita, the aunt of my good friend May. She was full of generosity, and she laughs a lot, May said. We love her, and she's 90. My image of Ramoncita, sitting and crocheting on her meticulous porch in the village of La Madera, which is very close to Santa Fe, or hovering over her tortillas on the ancient stove in the warmth of her kitchen, to me tells the story. She represented an old-fashioned belief in hospitality and the notion that everything mattered. Her big soul filled my camera lens. Here we are in Mountain Air, again, a small village in New Mexico. I have to say, I looked at this image, and when I was photographing, I imagined the woman had on high heels, and she had a big bow tied in the back of her apron, reminding me of 1960s ads of women in high heels joyfully opening their refrigerator door, expressing a certain happiness, I think, which I doubt. Here we are with the Roma family, all women washing their clothes. Now, this is a photograph that I absolutely love. It was in South Carolina. I saw the 7 pantyhose, all meticulously on the line, beautifully separated, neat, etc. And I had to wonder, was the woman inside not coming out, or did she have on the 8th pair of pantyhose? So women are glamorous. We are glamorous. These are Paris fashions. Even on the subway, the metro in Paris, window showing a lovely woman, her legs. We are alluring lovers. And this also was in Paris, and I feel that, I always felt if a couple saw you photographing them, they would immediately start posing. And these people did. And I loved it. We are friends. This is my 2nd grade best friend, and that was part of the original image you saw when you walked in, was the birthday party. And we were friends forever. 3 great friends now, Louise and Vicky and myself. Friendship is very important to me. This is Margot, my wonderful, wonderful life partner for many years. 2 Italians. I don't know why they chose to have this conversation in the window, but they did, and I just stared at them, and they were, absolutely together, and I photographed them. I was crazy about the curlers in a Caribbean market. My father, speaking of friends, and his sibling, and they adored each other. And here are my parents in their elder years. Sort of, I like to see this, I'm not sure it was quite true, but sort of enduring love. Are we kingmakers? I felt the shadow of this empty suit jacket near a bedroom in a lonely house and was reminded of the phrase, instead of finding her dream, she married it. We are emotional beings. I love this in New York, this hair salon. And this is an important photograph for me, again in Kosovo, because this was the first time the war was just ending and the police academy were allowing, it had never been allowed before, to have a Kosovar and a Serb enter into the police academy. And I've sort of talked to this woman a little bit, and she was so thrilled because a lot of people didn't want the war, of course. I wish I'd taken this photograph because I have never seen such joy. This is a 1940s postcard. I've never seen such joy on anyone's face, and quite relaxed, I might add. A mechanic in Santa Fe, she said, if you're going to take my photograph, you better get under here with me. So I did. Here is a determined ice cream eater, and I loved her seriousness. Doris, a very spiritual leader in East Texas, and I went to visit and interview her. She was saving a black cemetery, and she did it with a friend of mine, China Galland, and she was full of expression, determined. Here is a sad woman. Perhaps she was burdened by all her children. I don't venture to say. We are spiritual. Here again, we are with the Virgin Mary. I want to say here that I often put a veil over some of the figures in my monoprints. This is a monotype, actually, hinting at the depth beyond the figure. In Rome, a woman on her knees in church, spiritual being. This was a moment in New Orleans. I photographed there after the Katrina hurricane and was introduced to a very big-spirited pastor who took me around to show me all of the destruction, but she was so full of hope, and she was very funny. And she also said I could come in and photograph in her church service. So in a spiritual way, here is a very spiritual way, the Black Madonna. About 20 years ago, I walked into a church in Einsiedeln, Switzerland, and was completely intrigued by a statue of the Black Madonna. I knew nothing of the Black Madonna, but I had to find out. And for about 2 years, I traveled down a path of discovery to hear and know the differences between the Black Madonna and the Virgin Mary. My interpretation of the knowledge I gained from the Black Madonna is that she told me, this is so important to me, but she told me that I had the power within me. She does not act as the go-between. between you and the higher power or Christ. She is taking, she does not take your wishes and just move them on. She tells you that she believes in the strength within you. I visited many sites for the Black Madonna. There are 400 sites in France and Italy alone. And one of the sites was Sainte-Marie-de-la-Mer in southern France. For the pilgrimage to Sainte Sarah, who is the patron saint of the Gypsies, the Roma. I gave a presentation of the Black Madonna in many places, had a wonderful time doing it. And so I've put in this clip, originally from a documentary you may have seen called Lacho Drum. But this little short clip captures for me the devotion to the Black Madonna.
Who is this figure? Why are these men showing her such adoration? We may understand some of what they're saying, but are they also telling her their secrets? There seems to be a trust, a connection. They play music to her. Who is she? She is the Black Madonna.
I took, that is me speaking, in case you're wondering, but that was from Lacho Drum. The women are also, they have vocations, of course. I met this policewoman on the subway, and we began to talk, and I liked her, and I said, could I ever photograph you in your uniform or whatever? And she said, yes, come back with me to my office. I'm going to change. So what I really loved is that she thought it was very funny to sling her holster over her arm while she was putting on her lipstick. I mean, this is the ultimate female symbol, I believe. The Caribbean bartender, these are all vocations. That is me creating my monotypes. This is my very good friend Cornelia, who is a wonderful artist in New York. And she hated this photograph because she felt she looked fat. That's something women often say, but her paintings are so beautiful, and she was giving it such an intense look. This is Maria, passionately selling her flowers in a Parisian market. The incense roller, who I photographed in India, and I'm proud to say this was in Ms. Magazine. And this is a monotype of women in Benares. We were speaking tonight about the Ganges. Is it you, Brad? And I just love their elegance, the way they walked and had the wares on top of their head. And it was a joy to, India, I love India so much, but it was such a joy to photograph these beautiful women. We are readers, and I particularly liked these women's stockings. And so she was quite a kick, actually. A very serious reader. We are ponderers. We are dancers. And I love flamenco, and again, I put a veil in front of the wonderful flamenco dancers. Here are the Roma young girls dancing at Sainte-Marie-de-la-Mer Festival. Very sensuous. This is National Dance Institute in Santa Fe. And the interesting thing with this photograph is this young boy and girl didn't like each other and didn't want to dance together, but they began. And suddenly they had this very lovely flow and rhythm that they were expressing. They couldn't help it. Again, on a New Mexico wall, we are musicians. Here's Margot and her cello, a sax player, a passionate singer into the mic. We are corporate leaders. This is my friend Joan, who's head of Vogue in Paris. And here are two women who are directors of the Women's Bank in Ahmedabad in India. I was asked to put together my photographs for SEWA, which is Self-Employed Women's Association in India. And it's a nonprofit entity to empower women through their voice, their visibility, and the economic power of loans, which they paid back 98%. Most of the people that I photographed were from the untouchable class, the Dalit. Uh-oh. Somebody's out there. Or maybe that was a connection to India. We are alone. This is a meticulous bed that I saw of a homeless person on the streets of New York. And I couldn't get over the lovely pillowcase, the sheet, and I waited I kind of did assume that it was a woman, it might not have been, but I felt I would have a connection with her. And this was a woman I met who's selling her wares in Oaxaca in Mexico. She invited me to her home, and it was a very lonely home, but she let me photograph her and her little garden. A lone woman on the metro. We are exhausted. These two wonderful Asian women in an airport. A woman absolutely exhausted, but guarding her dog and her bag. And we are other. This is my friend Zada, peeking out from her chador. A Turkish woman in a factory on the wall in a factory in Istanbul. Elegant Asian woman. And here we are with the rag pickers. Again, I was photographing the rag pickers for SEWA. And I'm proud to say that this and the next image were shown at a United Nations exhibit. 60 photographers from 50 countries. I'm quoting from my book here. This was so important to me. I caught the eye of this young woman on the screen, and I had a fantasy. I fantasized talking to her, sitting on top of the garbage piles, enjoying an Indian tea. I wanted to ask her mundane questions: where she lived, how she lived, which pieces of rags she would consider a prize, and why. That she would have wanted to speak to me was perhaps a ludicrous thought, but that's what I would have liked. And for a moment, I thought she too would be willing. Now, women can also be defined, in my definition here, as too independent. I think she knew I was photographing her with this huge cigar, and I loved it. Protesters. A young black woman and white woman embracing each other, and this was at the March for George Floyd in Washington. Women are persecuted. I saw this mural in the Caribbean market. Women are fierce. I photographed at a snake festival in northern Italy, and everyone had snakes around them, elderly, young. It was really fascinating. And here's Mary. Mary, I quote, a 60-ish waitress at Junior's Cheesecake Restaurant in Brooklyn. She had an attitude that was open, but deeply vulnerable. It took several meetings over coffee to break through her suffer no fools veneer. She'd spent 35 years at Junior's and was planning her retirement in Florida, where she could finally take it easy and leave life's duties behind. With a cigarette dangling from her mouth, she described the mostly rotten men in her life. If only, she said, if only I hadn't spent so much time on my back, I could have made it. Well, she said that with a wink, and yes, it was funny, but it was also a very poignant comment. And this is Sylvia. She was my guide in Kosovo. And again, I quote from my book. After we drove away from the family outside Pristina, an angry and frustrated Sylvia, both hands clenching the wheel, asked me what I specifically wished to achieve by taking and showing my photographs. Don't you understand the country's tragedy? What are these photographs for? She snapped. Intimidated, I answered that my intentions were to show the resilient strength and the essence of the female. What do you mean, essence? She said. We're just women. We do what we are meant to do. And what is that? I asked, with only a partial strength. I have been photographing Kosovar women who are now in administrative positions in place of the fighting men. Will they retreat once the men return? Are your colleagues surprised by their ability to make decisions, to govern while facing war's terrors, alone with children? I was very nervous asking her these questions. Sylvia peered over at me, her short, unruly hair covering her eye. Yes, sometimes they are surprised by their strength. I don't know. What are you asking me? Do females look one another in the eye more than men do? Does it all go back to the ability to give birth? What? Sylvia stammered, staring at me. And then tears began in this very stalwart, very serious woman. And she suddenly said, I was raped. Stunned by her candor, I whispered, I am sorry. There was nothing else I could say, but I felt I was looking at a breakdown of her bravery. The image that is on the screen now is of me in Kosovo, and it was taken, I worked with two other photographers, one Russian and one Romanian. They were assigned to photograph the mission's events. But we would get together, the three of us, almost every day, and we were allowed to take images of the personal life of the Kosovars. And I am proud to say that Bernard Kouchner, who was director of the UN mission in Kosovo, said he saw another Kosovo through my images. So now I want to tell and show you my significant guides, my mentors, influencers from whom I learned and with whom I allied myself. I have been on a search. A phrase stays with me, said by a female I respected: "We must connect. If there is no relatedness, there is no connection to humanity or the earth," she said. I often felt, not always, in the women I photographed, a sense of themselves and relatedness. I witnessed resilience, compassion, determination to survive, vulnerability, collaboration, sometimes those who listened in order to find a resolution. And my focus, with that focus or understanding and resolution, I saw balance. So these are my significant guides, my mentors, my influencers. The Black Madonna again. Her blackness is synonymous with wisdom and represents the earth. Therefore, that means fertility, creation. But to access that wisdom, for those of us who dare, she said to me, I felt, we must venture into the dark and mysterious waters within us. For only in that womb-like place can we truly find ourselves. The darkness is precisely where the answers are hidden, and you will find an opening into self-knowledge. That is what I felt her promise was and still is for me. This is my great friend, Susan Herder, in Santa Fe. I caught an image of Susan, 88-year-old Susan, as she sat on her beautiful porch in Pewaukee, north of Santa Fe. Wisdom and thoughtfulness showed on her face. People came to Susan with their thoughts. It didn't seem to matter what the question was. She would reach into her compassionate core and give a considered response. She had a true sense of herself, I felt, and also she had the courage to act from her heart, not just her mind. She told me once, I only get involved and upset when I feel I can make a difference. Then I must stand up. I told Susan once that a teacher told me to be careful that my wild spirit would get me in trouble. She answered, "You're not wild or rebellious. Yes, you are a bit feisty, but you're alive." Susan was alive, and she was a true life force and a great influence, a mentor for me. And here is Bastet, the cat companion to the powerful and strong-willed Egyptian goddess, Isis, who I also revere. Bastet exemplified freedom for me. No one can own the cat. She had the ability to cross worlds, and she also was the goddess of secrets. Cats, to me, have wisdom. They are not evil, but mysterious and independent. The cat lands on its feet. If a cat is up high enough and falls, I'm sure we all have seen this, the cat can twirl and get its body arranged under its feet and fall safely. I see women as twirlers, often thinking, feeling how to land on their feet. And here again is Cactus Pete, my alter ego. With a determined Cactus Pete by my side, I gained courage, daring me to be an explorer and urging on my curiosity. With the help of Cactus Pete, I realized that my choice in life would be between safety and self-identity. And I pretty much chose self-identity. I am grateful to Cactus Pete. And many of you probably know Marion Woodman. I took these 4 images of Marion when she was listening to her husband giving a talk. And I think they're actually quite priceless and are used in her, when she sends, well, Marion died, but they use these images. Marion was a poet, an author, and really best known as a revered psychologist and women's movement figure. And I was lucky enough to work with Marion in workshops several times. She too very much loved the Black Madonna, and she agreed that we must go into the darkness to find the light. There are religions that say we are the light, and I don't really agree with that. She said women by nature are disposed to relationship and connectedness. Marion often spoke of the still point. She said, dancing at the still point of the turning world, at the still point, there the dance is, and there's only the dance. My interpretation of Marion's still point concept is to feel my own center, but to be one with everything, with the cosmos, with the dance swirling around me. And here is Aunt Billy, with her great Southern drawl. She loved to quote her favorite Oscar Wilde concept to me. Joni, might as well be yourself. Everyone else is taken. Don't let anyone define you. You have to dare and risk, but you have to be careful, as every choice has a consequence. And here she is at 96, smoking, constantly smoking, actually. This was at her residence, and she said to me when I first got there, she said, "Come on outside with me. I have a bottle of white wine in my wheelchair, and we are going to drink it right there. And don't tell any of the other people here, because they'll want some too." Billy also talked about the dance, and in her own way. Life's a dance. Oh, Joni, our souls will always have longings and wishes, sometimes opposite wishes, but you just embrace them, dance them into a harmony. My monoprint here came out of this understanding, really from Billy, the Black Madonna, and dancers. I identified with Billy and wanted to follow her dance. She had joy and emphatically told me, balance, that's what dance is. The dance is not beautiful unless you move together. Then you have balance. I sent her this image that I took in India And it was an amazing moment of two men absolutely, I don't know how they even got there. They're sitting way up high on two different roofs and talking madly, I assumed saying something very important, excuse me, and they were balanced. She said, I sent it to Billy, and she said, well, look at that. Now that's balance. And Aunt Billy would have liked this image of the two lampposts, perfectly balanced, looking out to sea. One doesn't know what is out there, but with an expanded vision, it could be that there's an opening to questions, to receiving answers, and then we can find the balance of opposites. I believe she would have said, she didn't, but I believe she would, sometimes we just need to accept paradox. Billy would have said and paused. That's such a big word, but really it just means opposites. I can see Billy one afternoon when I was in my teens as she got up from her chair and began to twirl her wide black skirt with the red cats on it, gently caressing everything in her path. See, Joni, you just dance like this. Watch me now. Thank you. Thank you. Well, I'm told by Brad that there might be questions, so if there are, fire away. Yes, Ramona. It made you appreciate who you are? Yes, thank you.
My question is more to the next generation. With dots,
I can't quite hear you. Can you stand up, Ramona?
with my own daughter who broke through a glass ceiling, and she was giving a huge talk with two other men, three of the presenters. And at that point, they didn't have a person to pass the microphone. So they looked around and they walked up to my daughter on the stage and said, would you do this? She said, no. But this is now at my daughter's age, broken glass ceiling, and they are now dealing with the dots position, they're dealing with family and, you know, and she told me it's very hard for a woman to get what she did. What kind of image or story would you tell that generation? I totally relate to this. I think that what in your
Yeah. Well, it's a hard thing to answer, but you know, I have hope and I have faith. And I have talked to, I think I'm answering your question, it's a little hard to hear, but you know, I've talked to some young people. And I think it was the other night I heard someone say that, you know, really, young people are working for this world. And that they were particularly talking about the global warming. And I was so hopeful when I heard this. I mean, I just can't imagine to think that that people don't understand the danger we're in and that democracy, et cetera. And so I was given tremendous hope. I wish I had a better answer for young people, to ask young people, but I feel they're involved, and I think they understand the danger. I'm hoping. I'm an optimistic person. Shall we? I don't know. Are there any more questions? Brian, my cousin, you have to ask a question.
Did you discover yourself when you came home from all this photography, or while you were out there making the photograph?
You know, I think discover oneself is a very big idea. I hope my last breath on this earth isn't, what'd you say? You know, that I have gotten something. I think curiosity has saved me, really. I can't help it. I'm very curious. And I think being open to hearing the other side is something I learned from other cultures, and really appreciating other cultures and different kinds of people. I'm always fascinated, and so I hope I'm still learning. Thank you for that. Yes?
I have a question. It's kind of specific within all the different topics that we covered. I hope you don't mind. I'm not familiar with the concept of Black Madonna.
Yes.
One thing that struck me when you were showing the images was that none of them had African features, or
Oh.
Facial features, bone structure, hair. And I'm just wondering, your
Yeah.
interpretation of what it means in terms of the earth and
Yeah.
dark. Is that the greater significance of it? Because they don't look Black African.
No.
And I'm wondering, in Africa, in places where people mostly are Black, is there such a thing as they look African?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. They, they were brought back by the Crusaders, these statues, in the 9th to 12th century, and mostly from the area that would be Lebanon, etc. And so, no, they're not necessarily Black people, although they have been used by the religions to say, see, this is your person, this Black person. They have also, I think it's very amusing that the idea is that they became Black because of the smoke. And that is ridiculous, because the rest of the body is Black and was not exposed to smoke. They have been told that, there's one of the great Madonnas is in Częstochowa in Poland, and that's a very white Madonna. So I think the answer is not clear. I think it can be used, but mostly you will see a Middle Eastern look. And I don't know if that's quite answering your question, but.
I just wondered in Africa, in Black parts of Africa, did you see a more Black look?
Well, you would in Brazil, which is not Africa, but yeah.
So in Brazil, the facial features are different.
As I know, I think of them as more Black. But you can see them every color, every tone. And just a very wonderful symbol, I think. Yes?
If you take a look at how women are treated or how they're perceived by men in many of the Middle Eastern countries, if you had one picture that you would show men in those countries, which picture that we saw tonight would you show them?
You mean for hope, or for the essence of woman, or?
Leave it up to you.
I want you to say. I really, what flashes in front of me are, the Mother Earth, Ana Mendieta, so fabulously involved with the earth. One of the photographs I love so much and I said I wish I'd taken it, is that postcard of the woman just so full of joy. I could keep going, but I think I'm not quite thinking of specific. I like all these photographs. Is it? Thank you. Okay.
Great. Well, what? Thank you very much.
Loved it. Thank you very much.
We appreciate you bringing so much of the world to Jaffrey Center this evening.
Oh, good.
And as a small token of our appreciation, we have some New Hampshire maple
Oh, my
syrup for you.
goodness gracious.
You're going to have to two-hand this. It's
Yeah?
a half gallon.
Well, I'll just drink it tonight then.
Thank you again, Joan.
Thank
It was
you.
really interesting. Love seeing your pictures. So we invite you all to go next door. More questions and conversation with Joan. Just want to remind you that next week we're going to have a real shift in topic. We're going to have the Pony Boys here. These two, when they were 9 and 11 years old, rode a pony cart from Massachusetts to Montreal to the expo. And they're going to tell their story with a filmmaker. We'll show a short film and then interview the two pony boys and hear their story. So please come next week as well. Thank you all.
Oh, thank you.